Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of the Chargify webinar. This one will focus on our reporting suite. My name is Matt and I am the solutions engineer here at Chargify, and today I will be walking you through this webinar. So with that said, let's get started. So today's topics for the reporting suite webinar, we will discuss how you can use the suite of tools to make meaningful decisions for your business. So the reports that we are going to look at today are the MRR report and the newly introduced product and component filters. We will also look at revenue retention, the churn report, the subscribers report, and the finance report. So with MRR, it will provide you a near real-time measure of your monthly recurring revenue based on your subscribers. And with MRR, you can monitor new business, expansion, contraction, churn, reactivation, and usage. It will also allow you to filter and analyze by product and component, which we will look at in a minute, and analyze by individual customers and individual transactions. So let's take a look at an MRR example, the new product and component filtering. So with the image on the left, you'll see a new dropdown in your MRR report where you can filter by a single product or by multiple products. And when you do that, a new MRR graph will be created, so then you can analyze the data. In the image on the right, you'll see the component dropdown. This will allow you to filter by a single component, multiple components, and include or exclude the products that you filtered for as well. And these will allow you to create custom reports so you can analyze the data for your products and components. Now let's take a look at some examples of how you can use MRR to make some real-world decisions for your business. So if your products and components are, for example, user licenses, this would allow you to track the performance based on the license type. If your components are usage, so if you're using metered components, this will allow you to monitor month-over-month usage and also easily create usage-only MRR reports. If your product or components are locations, so for example, if you have physical locations spread across the country, this would allow you to track the success of each individual location. Next, let's move to the revenue retention portion of the reporting suite. This report will allow you to get insights into the effectiveness of your revenue recovery strategy. And this will focus on your retries and dunning. With revenue retention, you can monitor your revenue recovered, your revenue at risk, and your customers and dunning. It also allows you to analyze trends, individual customers, and of course, your dunning efficiency. So let's look at an example of how you can use revenue retention for the real world. So first, you would break down the number of days and compare that to your current strategy. So you likely already have a dunning strategy in place. Perhaps it's 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, etc. The next step would be to use the portion of the revenue retention report shown below in the image and look at the date ranges. So for example, you'll see 0 to 3 days, 4 to 7 days, etc. So what you want to do is look at the last date range, and that's illustrated with that red box around the greater than 21 day section in this example. And the big question here is, do you have recovery within that last date range? If you do, it may hint that you could consider extending your dunning strategy because there's likely more revenue that you can recover. So again, just look at that last date range, and then you can draw conclusions to see if there's more revenue to recover by extending your dunning strategy. Next, let's take a look at churn reports. These reports allow you to quickly access and analyze subscriber and MRR churn. So with these reports, you can monitor total churn, subscriber retention, and MRR retention. It also allows you to look at statistics such as MRR churn rate, net MRR churn, and subscriber churn. So let's take a look at a churn report example using the retention cohort section. These allow you to filter for your MRR retained and your subscribers retained over the last 12 months. So if we look at the image on the top left here, this is MRR retained that can be expressed in a percentage value or a dollar value. The image on the bottom right, you can see the cohort for subscribers retained, and this will give you a breakdown of your subscribers retained in a percentage format or a number format. This way you can analyze what happens to your subscribers over time. Some examples of how you can use the churn report to make some decisions for your business. Here's some examples for increased or decreased churn. Essentially, if you do something meaningful with your product, like change your product offering, you could look at statistics in the churn report to see when you made that change in product offering and how that impacted your churn. You could do the same if you make price changes, if you make changes to your customer service approach, and the same would apply if you change an onboarding flow that you're using for new customers, or if you release any changes or even a new user interface for your application. Next, let's transition into the subscriber reports. These reports will allow you to analyze the health of your customer base. With the subscriber reports, you can monitor your subscriber counts. Mainly, this focuses on new business, churn, and reactivation. These reports also let you analyze trends in those subscriber counts, growth rates, and growth patterns. So with the subscriber report, here's how it's tracking the data. With new business, it's looking at new signups, of course. And more importantly, if you offer some type of free trialing product, it looks at conversions from your free product to your paid product. With reactivations, it's looking at canceled subscriptions that are transitioning into active subscriptions. And with churn, it's looking at cancellations, but even more than just a normal cancellation, it's looking at downgrades to a free level. So the report is intelligent enough to recognize the move from a paid product to a free product you offer, even though it may not actually be a cancellation. It will still be able to track that as churn. So here's an example of how you can use the subscriber report to make some decisions for your business. So the main thing here is finding relationships between your subscriber data and your revenue data. So for an example, with the image on the left, we have a section of the MRR report, where in January of 2018, we have about $27,000 in MRR. Now, if we look at the image on the right, this is a portion of the subscriber report. And in January 2018, we had 141 subscribers at the end of January. So with those two data points, we can now calculate the January 2018 ARPU, the average revenue per user, which is about 27,000 divided by the 141. So in other words, we had just under $200 average revenue per user in January. So with that data point, you can repeat the process for other months or other quarters, etc. And you can start to see the trends. Is there an increase in ARPU? Is there a decrease? Why? Did you make changes? What were those changes? And hopefully that will start to unlock some insight so you can make meaningful changes to the business to increase your revenue. And finally, the last report we will look at today is the finance report. This is accrual-based reporting. And this report will allow you to reconcile all transactions at the end of a given month, and it's built with your accountants in mind. With the finance report, you can monitor total revenue, sales, discounts, credits and taxes, and payments that are collected, expected, or uncollected. and a detailed export of all the transactions that go into this report are available for easy download. So let's look at how this finance report tracks, how it works. It's looking at, first, total revenue, which is comprised of all the subcategories of your sales, your discounts, your credits, voids that make up your total revenue. It looks at total billed, which is simply the total revenue plus any applicable taxes. It's looking at payments, which is understanding the difference between payments that are collected, expected, or uncollected. And it's looking at net revenue, which is your total revenue minus any refunds that have been applied towards previously received payments. Now, a few notes about this report. Revenue recognition is not yet built in, but will be soon. And currently, ongoing invoice improvements will add a start and end date to every line item, and that will open the door for clear revenue recognition. For the finance report, here's an example of how you can use it. So it's important to note that this is the only report that breaks down recurring versus non-recurring revenue. So, for example, you can look at discounts or credits. Do you see large discounts or credits on your finance report? Where do they come from? What is the source? So as a real world example, is your sales team giving out credits to close deals? For refunds, are you seeing an increase in refunds? Is your support team giving out more refunds than they should be? This will allow you to get insight into those numbers so you can look into the source of these transactions. And as an important note with MRR reports versus finance reports, the MRR is meant for recurring transaction types. And naturally, transaction types like balance adjustments are, of course, one-time in nature, and that non-recurring revenue would appear on the finance report. So as some final notes, there are some upcoming improvements to the system. So first, subscriber and churn reports will add product and component filters. So those filters that we saw earlier that have been added to the MRR reports, those will be added to the subscriber and churn reports as well. Classic analytics will be removed on May 4th. So a few notes on that. Compared to classic analytics, the new insights on existing reports utilize more accurate methods of calculation. They also properly handle data from components and usage. They allow filtering by components and subscribers for a more detailed view of your data, and they update in near real time. They also offer exports so you can reconcile the data with your transaction history. And that is it. Our next webinar will be on invoices. We appreciate your time today. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the GoToMeeting questions area on the side, and we will go ahead and answer those questions for you. Thank you very much. Okay. One of the questions was, how do we run these reports? So in the insights section of your Chargify account, these will be ready to go out of the box for you. So you can view those data points and start gathering those insights for your business. Someone asked if this is live or recorded. I could have mentioned that in the very beginning. This was recorded, so we will have that available for you in a follow-up email. Great question, thank you. So the finance reports, so the question here is, where do we find the finance reports? In the insights section, you will see that information there. So here's a good question about a sales tax report. So the finance report itself contains information on the amount of taxes, and there's actually a separate sales tax report area that's more a detailed list of the sales tax transactions. So in your catalog section, you will find essentially where you enabled either custom taxes or Avalara taxes. There's a button in there you can click that will take you to a sales tax report, which will show you the list of the different tax transactions that have occurred. Great question. Hey, great. Glad that sales tax feature helps you out there. And we also have some others who are answering those questions in the chat box. The question that came in was, how do we obtain the recording to show to others, which might be something that others are thinking about too, so you can show it to other employees in your organization. So we'll send out a link once we put that video together, and so we can get that recording to you in a follow-up email. All right, any other questions? Feel free to put them in the questions section. We'll make sure to get those answered for you. And if you have everything you need for the day, feel free to enjoy yours, and we'll get you that recording out to you as soon as it's ready. But if any other questions remain, please feel free to drop them in the question section. Happy to help. All right, looks like we are good for today. So feel free to join us next time for the Invoices webinar, and we appreciate you taking the time to attend today. Have a good one.